there, fellow classic comic collectors. As always, I'm Scott Harris King, and today, as promised, the day you've all been waiting for, the final installment of my complete run of Usagi Yojimbo. Yes, this has been a while, 8 videos, but it's a long series on issue 271 and counting. One of the longest running indie comics of all time. And really getting up there, 40 years next year. So, really excited to show you the last bit of the run. Now, just to quickly recap for all of you who did not watch the previous videos, which is most everyone on Earth. In the previous videos, we've covered almost all 40 years of Usagi Yojimbo, starting with video 1, where we showed Albedo 2, 3, and 4. We showed Critters 1 through 50. We showed the Summer Special number 1 and a couple other things like Doomsday Squad 3, the color reprints, etc., etc. Then we showed the complete run of all 38 issues of the first volume of Usagi Yojimbo. That was from Fantagraphics. Then we had a video where we showed all 16 issues from volume 2, which was the Mirage series. And then volume 3 is Dark Horse. And so we have videos with issues 1 through 50, 51 to 100, 101 to 150, 151 to 172. And that's when the Dark Horse run ended. And they came over here to IDW. And this series ran for 31 issues, full color for the first time, whereas the previous ones were in black and white interiors. This has full color. And then after 31 issues of this run, the series went back to Dark Horse for volume 5. Only 2 issues out so far, and I am actually going to show those. Last time I said I wasn't, but they happened to be right there, so why not? So we're going to jump into this right now, and we're going to show you the rest of the Usagi Yojimbo run. So here we go, issue 1. I've talked before about the striking use of colors. Now, most of the covers have the credit for the colors going to Tom Luth, who's been doing the colors for the covers right from the beginning of the series. But this one here actually just as Stan Sakai by himself. There's more of a watercolory feel to the colors. Some great use of the sort of the pinks. I love the pink background. We talked about how in some of the previous issues of the previous run, the art would go up behind the frame, but it would be colored in with the frame, and we're going to see that on some of the future ones. But here, this branch actually goes in front of the frame, but behind the logo, gives it an interesting sort of 3D effect, which I love. But it's got the cherry blossoms. It's just a really striking color scheme. So issue 2. Issue 3, this is an interesting storyline about these dolls coming to life, these magic demonic dolls. Issue 4. Five. Love the colors. I love the intricate designs. I love the wave work, which is reminiscent of some famous. I'm just blanking as a hokusai. I probably got that wrong. The famous the wave by Mount Fuji, and other sort of classic Japanese art. Just really cool. So here's interesting. It's an homage to the first appearance in Albedo 2, which has a very similar cover, but it's done with a black background. The colors being different here do change the feel of things. One thing that's different about this run is we start to get a lot of variant covers, which I don't actually have. I might have one or two, I'm not sure, but don't tend to have the variant covers, which is a newer development for the series. And so those are covers mostly by people that are not Stan. We also see there's multiple homages to Albedo #2. I think this might be the only one I have, but there are other ones as part of those variant covers. Here's issue 7, and we have the return after a long absence of Gen. I think he hadn't been in the series since issue like 100 and the Dark Horse like 114. So it's been like 65 or 70 issues. Number 8. One thing that they do a lot here is sort of complementary colors. I tend to gravitate towards when I'm doing the design for my comics, I tend to do like contrasting colors. I like things that are high contrast. But when I do use colors, I try and like if I'm gonna have a blue in the cover, I try and use the same shade of blue throughout if I can. I'm not usually big on complementary sort of colors, which is big on coloring these days, where you'll have like a bunch of different shades of blue, so you have like a thing. Anyway, I was just noting that having this be with the blue and white color scheme, it sort of complements his outfit. And again, you can also see that the artwork does go up behind here, and so it's almost like a blue, sort of a transparent blue like screen or plate of glass or something has been put in between us and the background, so you can just sort of see it through. And I actually really like that effect quite a bit. We see that again here on issue 9, where the background trees are again sort of a complementary color, this and the tree, but this sort of mutes things a little bit more. We have the return of the ninjas and return of one of the most common tropes is our heroes and then the weapons coming in, which I love. So here's number 10. One thing different here is that we're getting advertisements on the back. With the Dark Horse run, the backs of the covers were more art, pinups, character studies, things like that. Mostly from Stan, and then towards the end, other artists coming in. But here we're getting a lot of advertisements, house ads, other ads. So there's issue 10. 11. 12. One thing that happens a lot in the stories is Usagi sort of standing up for people that can't stand up for themselves. But because of the constraints of Japanese society, a lot of times when he does that, it doesn't actually help anybody. The people are still have to go along with things, or they're bound by the code to do things even in the name of honor. They have to do things that lead to their own destruction, and no matter how Usagi tries to help them, often he can't. 13. Here we have an Eisner winner button. We've seen a lot of Eisner things pop up on the series as we've been going. Different badges and banners. Here we have one for winning an Eisner. Some of them previously have mostly been nominations. 14. This is called the Return. Now, like with the previous batch of issues from Dark Horse, these do have up here the story name, and then it'll say, it's like this says the Return Part 4 of 4, but it's really small and hard to read, and I'm not sure that helps anybody. This is a now they in the previous one they would do that for every issue. So even if it was a one shot, it would say 1 of 1. But for these on the one shots like this one, which is a really cool cover, it doesn't say anything because it's a one shot. Whereas the next issue, 16, it says Tengu War Part 1 of 3, but again, you can barely see that that's there. And again, now this time we have the art coming in front of the logo. I really like what they do there because it gives you like several levels. It's not just a 3D effect, but there's several different levels here. So we've got the art in the foreground in front of the logo, which is in front of this yellow screen, and that is in front of the tree. And so having this whole thing in between the tree and the monster gives you an extra depth of field that you would not have if the banner wasn't there. It's part of the reason that I like incorporating the graphic design elements of the cover into the artwork, because it gives you dimensionality and can do other things as well that you can't get just with the artwork. Here's a rare one. This is issue 17 of Usagi Yojimbo. It's Stan Sakai homaging someone else, and he's homaging Frank Frazetta. Check this cover out. How cool is that, right? Really cool is how cool. That's how cool it is. Really cool. So that's neat. So here issue 18, you're going to see that this is the only one of the run that I have bagged or boarded, and it's bagged and boarded. And the reason for that is my LCS somehow missed this issue. Something went wrong. They may have, I think the shipment that they got might have been damaged or something. And so when I got the rest of the run, they didn't have this, and they had to track down a copy of 18 somehow on a secondary market. I don't know, to get in my box. So I had to wait a little while for 18 and to finish the story. But as I've mentioned, the numbers on the series are very low. I don't know how low they were at this point with the IDW run, because this is sort of, we're getting into the period where Diamond sort of disintegrated and now we just don't have the sales figures for anything. But with Dark Horse, it was about 4,500 for a decade or plus. So I can't imagine it was too much higher with IDW. I think they got an initial boost when the new series launched and with the color and stuff, and just starting over the number one. But I think that probably faded pretty quickly. But anyway, there's 18. 19, we get another really cool cover with him fighting in water and fighting a dragon. There's a lot of classic Japanese art elements here. Now, issue 20 is important because this introduces a new recurring sort of important character, Yukoichi, who is a younger rabbit swordsman who had an encounter when he was much younger with Usagi, and he's been searching for him ever since, to sort of make up for a mistake that he made at the time. And so they become traveling companions, and end up traveling together for the rest of the series and continuing to travel together into the next series. So this issue actually had a little bit of heat when it came out. One of these rare, very rare instances of people speculating on Usagi Yojimbo corresponded with the cartoon. So there's a lot of speculation that this was going to be important, and it is important in the context of the series, but in the context of back issues, probably not so much. 21, another one of these ones with a figure in the foreground, extreme foreground coming into the panel. 22, here's another Usagi with water and like giant water demons. In this case, it's a giant fish. Several of these we've seen, and it's really cool how they incorporate the traditional Japanese art style elements. 23. 24. 25's got an interesting cover. They appear to be going towards Mount Fuji, and then we have again, we have the weapon, but this time their backs are turned, so it gives it like an extra threat. And one thing I'll mention is that we've stopped seeing Tom Luth's name listed as the colorist. We have Hi-Fi, we have Dylan. These are by someone named E. Fuji. So I don't know what the cause of that is. Frankly, I didn't notice it until just now, so I don't know what's happened there. 26. And I mentioned this before, but let me just show you, like, the interior now is in full color. It takes a little bit of getting used to when you've read 230 issues in black and white, but it looks good. 27, and here's another case where when you have it up close, you can see the art behind this frame. Really cool sort of angle and perspective on that. 28. Now he's fighting another mythical creature, and again we see him in his full samurai armor, which we've seen him a couple times in these covers, and only when he's fighting these mythical creatures. But this is a really cool, the tiger with all the tails that are blocking the logo. Really cool. 29. Now this is Secret of the Green Dragon Part 2, but it doesn't say 2 of 3 or 2 of 4 like the previous ones did. It just says Part 2. But it's issue 30, and the next issue is the last issue, so 31. And so the series ended here, and then he took a year off from this, but in the meantime he was doing other stuff. There was a Space Usagi one shot. There was a crossover Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I think, was in between. That might have been at the end, in between the previous series, I forget. But he had a couple projects that he was doing. I think there was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossover series he was doing. So this was the last issue for about a year or so. I'm not sure exactly, but let's see. This one's dated September 2022, and then the next issue is dated, let's see, where's the date? September 2023. So that was exactly a year. So next issue, and I mentioned this last time, here we are, we're back with Dark Horse. The big difference is it's in color, but we have this, it's a first issue of the new series, and what it says here is Ice and Snow Part 1 of 2, and they're in parentheses for, again, reasons I don't fully understand. It says UY 270. I don't know why they don't just, if it's going to be on the cover anyway, why not just have the issue number? But interesting, it's an homage to the cover of Dark Horse, the first Dark Horse series, issue 1. So they're doing an homage to now that they're back at Dark Horse, but this is volume 5, whereas that was volume 3. And as you can, again, it's issue 270. And then the most recent issue here, 271, this story has Jay in it, and this is a really cool cover. I'm not a big fan of Jay, but it's Jay, but with the Obedo number 2. So it's an homage to the first appearance of Usagi, but with Jay instead of Usagi. So really cool. Curious if all of this is a 5-part story. Curious if the other 3 parts are also going to have homage covers, and if they are, what they'll be homaging. But that's it. All 271 issues of Usagi Yojimbo. Now, there's a few things I didn't show. I actually don't have Space Usagi, which is a spin-off series about one of his descendants in the far future who's in outer space. I have a couple of them, but I don't have all of them. There's also the Senso that I mentioned last time, which is an alternate future miniseries that's based on War of the Worlds. I do have those. There's several color specials. Now, probably won't do those anymore because it's in color just regularly, but there's 3 or 4 of those that came out over the years, which are Usagi stories in color, that sort of thing. But that's it. Finally, we've reached the end, all 270 issues. So let me know what you think down below. Thanks for coming on this journey with me, and I'll see you next time.